with Isabella Milano. Un momento. Un momento.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Un Momento with Isabella Milano. Today, I am pleased to introduce my guest, Elise Naccarato, a talented choral conductor and music educator from Burlington, Ontario. Elise is the founder and artistic director of the Myriad Ensemble, a women's choir based in Burlington, Ontario, that's known for producing sounds which are both rich in color and ethereal to listen to. She is also the conductor of the Hamilton Estonian Choir and has taken on conducting apprenticeships with choirs from all over Canada, including the Vancouver Chamber Choir under John Washburn, the U of T Women's Chamber Choir under Dr. Hilary Affelstadt, and as a rehearsal assistant to Zemfira Polos with the Hamilton Children's Choir and Young Voices Toronto. As a young conductor, Elise was the associate conductor of Orpheus Choir of Toronto and Chorus Niagara, and the assistant conductor for the 2016 Ontario Youth Choirs under Order of Canada recipient Robert Cooper, and the 2018 Ontario Youth Choir under John Washburn. As an innovator in her own right, Elise was awarded the Emerging Artist St. Catharines Arts and Culture Award for her work as an accomplished conductor. Currently in her career, Elise is pursuing a Master of Business Administration at the University of Fredericton and working as the full-time Managing Director of Chorus Niagara. Please join me in welcoming Elise Naccarato. Elise, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Isabella, for having me.
So upon visiting your website, I read that your women's choir, Myriad, has become much of a passion project for you. So tell me more about what it means to lead such a powerful group of singers.
Yeah, so Myriad started as a very small group in my living room that rehearsed at my living room. And it wasn't even really anything that I had dreamed or hoped that it would become what it is today. It was like 6 friends that didn't have anywhere to sing in the summer, and we decided, hey, this could be kind of fun. Let's just sing for fun. So we gathered that one summer in my living room. We gathered the next summer in my living room. And by that time, I think maybe there was one more summer somewhere in between there. And I was going through my master's at U of T in conducting at the time. And this was now, I guess, August 2017, maybe it was 2016. I can't remember the timeline exactly now. And we gathered around and they said, hey, is this something you'd want to continue even outside of the summer and maybe even expand and grow what this little Myriad Part 1 was? And I said, well, that sounds really interesting. I thought, okay, let's give it a go. Let's see what happens. So we graduated from my living room and moved into a lovely rehearsal space where we still are today. Very large school. We moved from the little music room now to the large gym, and that was the beginning of what was Myriad. So then in 2019, I guess somehow this all ended up around 2019. The September of 2019, we moved into Fernhill and we started our season. Then, of course, January 2020, February 2020, we had our first live concert ever. And I now went from 6 singers to, I think we were maybe about 18 singers. And then the pandemic hit. And I looked at the lovely group of people that were around me and said, we have a choice right now. We have a choice to either fold this thing before it kind of grows, or we have the choice, but I would need your help and your support to really take this to the next level and incorporate as a formal organization, a formal choir, registered as a business and as a charitable organization. And there was not even a question. There was no hesitancy. They said, yes, let's do it. So we formed a board of directors, applied for incorporation in the middle of a pandemic, because that seemed like a really great idea at the time. And here we are today. So, and that was, 18 singers in June of 2020. And now I have 50 singers in Myriad. So it is a complete, it's just inspiring to see the dedication and the passion of the individuals that come around the table to make Myriad what it is. Our slogan is a myriad of journeys, and that seems to reign so true, and that's why we named the choir Myriad, because a myriad of things, a myriad of people, a myriad of walks in life. That's what choir is. It's a conglomerate of individuals coming together to sing. So I feel so truly honored to lead the singers that are in front of me, because they give their hearts to singing, and it's really special to be able to make music with them.
That's fantastic. I sometimes for most people too, their biggest artistic endeavors kind of happened in ways that they never expected. And I love that this truly is a project for you that you feel deeply about, and that I know that you've built really close relationships with the singers who are in your choir, and that really translates to every performance, I think, especially with just how beautiful. I've seen videos online, and I really encourage people to check it out. The Myriad group. These women are fantastic, and I think it's a testament to really your work as a conductor too. So that's really fantastic.
Thank you.
I know that you completed an honors bachelor's in music and a diploma in voice performance at McMaster University, and in 2017 your master's in choral conducting from the University of Toronto. Do you have any favorite performance memories from your time as a student? And also, what would you tell your former self, I guess, in during those formative years of your musical education?
Yeah, it's kind of an odd memory, and I'm not really sure why this sticks out to me, but I remember going into my fourth year of my undergraduate degree, and I had pursued voice as a specialty up until that point in voice performance, and something just never quite sat right with me about voice performance. There's nothing wrong with it. This was just my personal take as a young student. I had so many passions about, I took so many business courses. I loved choir. I just liked everything. And yet every time I would get so much more enjoyment going to the practice room and sight reading something than I would actually preparing. I was far more excited to sight read and to do like the initial, like, let's learn notes and rhythms. And then kind of once I got past that, I was like, oh, moving on. And so at Mac at that time, I'm not sure if it's still that way now, you had the choice in your fourth year to go and do your diploma, and that would allow you to do a recital, or to just kind of complete your fourth year, and that would be a general music, or I don't exactly remember now, but I remember in order to get the diploma, you had to do the recital. And it sticks out to me because I remember thinking at the end of my third year, this is so obvious. I've gone this far. I'm going to go do the diploma. Why not? I'm here now. So I started. And that same year, I took some small ensemble courses, small trios, and we could create trios. And we had this one trio that was voice, flute, and piano. And it was a chamber ensemble course. And I remembered I was doing that course and simultaneously working on this like solo recital. And I remember thinking, just love that chamber music side of things. I love making, it was such in a way, it's an odd combination, flute, voice, and piano. There's quite a bit of music written for it, but not as much as say just, traditional voice and piano or other things. And I love that collaboration. And not that to say I wasn't enjoying my recital preparation, but not as much as working with others. So then I had the opportunity to do another chamber ensemble course. And this time I did it with two really good friends, and I don't remember what we called ourselves. It was like the Three Sopranos or something like that. And it was for trio voice. And that was even better because that was like choral singing. And all the way through my undergraduate degree, I had continued to volunteer with the Hamilton Children's Choir and pursue conducting in a very informal way, but definitely pursuing choir and kind of dabbled in the art of leadership when it came to choirs as well. And so I remember thinking at the end of, I don't know, probably sometime like December, January, thinking, I don't think solo performance is for me. And I thought that's kind of odd. I thought all the way through, I really want to do solo performance, but yet I'm loving this chamber stuff. This is like my favorite courses, like I'm living for this stuff. And I thought, let's just throw my hat in the ring for U of T and see what happens. And so that's the U of T story. But the performance aspect of it is, I remember thinking, what am I going to do about my recital now? Because I love this chamber stuff. Like, this is like the path that I'm headed on. I've now decided I don't think solo performance is the life for me. And because I just didn't have honestly, it takes so much dedication to be able to rehearse on your own and like dig into the nuance of pieces. And that wasn't me in terms of the solo realm. And I still remember my recital because I remember thinking, if this is the last thing that I ever sing as a soloist, I'm gonna die happy. Like, I loved it. It just felt so real. And I remember enjoying the performance because of that, because I felt no pressure. And everything I picked, you have to check all these boxes of having certain languages and certain things like that. And oh my goodness, holy man, credit to my teacher, because at this point she knew that solo performance wasn't going to be my path. And I think she knew that all along. To her credit. And I remember telling her, breaking the news to her, that I wanted to pursue conducting or something else other than solo performance. And she said, Elise, that feels right. And then I remember bringing her, I love like the music of particularly like Russian composers. And I found this amazing piece by Ravel, but it was in Hebrew. It wasn't in French. And she allowed me to do something by Rachmaninoff in Russian. She let me do this piece by Ravel in Hebrew. And so I was able to, because I didn't feel pigeonholed into doing the traditional stuff, I was allowed to present this recital as me and enjoy it. So that's a really long story for the favorite performance or most memorable. And so I guess the lesson for me there, and maybe for some other young people, is that do what you love to do, because you'll enjoy the performance at the end of it. And that's the point. If you're going to enjoy the performance, so is your audience. Then they're going to enjoy watching you give the performance. We put so much pressure on ourselves to be this definition of perfect. And yet that perfectness, only we can say what is perfect to us. So enjoy it, because you'll get more. I think we get more out of it, and so does our audience.
That's wonderful. I think that says a lot too about the turning point of many people's careers and how they wound up in a completely different area of music, but the highlight of it being that they enjoy it genuinely, every part of it, the process all the way up to the performance. And I think that is something that's overlooked sometimes when, especially, we're taking the academic stream into music with maybe there's something else out there for me that I will enjoy more than where I'm at right now, and that it's okay to change gears. So that's, yeah.
I think so often, in first and second year, we're told it's okay to like change gears now, right? In first and second year, you have so many opportunities to explore and try different things, but then it's like, once you decide, hey, you're on that track. And that is so untrue.
Mm-hmm.
You can change at any point. And just because you start somewhere, it doesn't mean that you failed because you decide another direction feels more right. And I hear that so often. If I change directions, I feel like I'm a failure, or I failed at this particular thing. No, it just means that you tried something and it wasn't quite right. And so now you need to try something else. Something will stick. Something always sticks eventually.
Yeah, it's a step towards finding what you want later on, and it's the only thing that really lasts in the end.
Yeah.
But it's true, where those messages are sent very early on in the university experience.
Yeah.
And it's important to talk about because it's there. Yeah. As both a teacher and a performer yourself, what would you say is an important quality for a musician to possess?
Patience.
Mm.
Patience first with yourself, and patience to fail, patience to try, patience to innovate, all of it. It just takes I think we live in this world where everything is so instant. You know, Instagram is instant, social media is instant. And yet when it comes to music, that gratification, that final gratification takes so long. And even when you think you got it, then you have your teacher or whoever saying, I don't know, try this, try that. And it's like, I thought I just got it. What do you mean try this, try that, right? And it takes that um self-realization that okay, it's just going to take a little more practice, a little more whatever it might be to achieve I say the best final result, but a final result that feels good to everybody involved. So I think patience is number one, and patience with others too. I've oftentimes, we're going to cross paths with people, we're going to collaborate with so many different kinds of people, and it is about learning the person as much as it is about collaborating and working together and figuring out how they tick, and even just being understanding of things that happen in personal lives. And I do think that we're getting better at this as musicians. I do think that we're getting better at saying, hey, like life doesn't revolve around this particular concert or this particular recital. Like things happen, life happens, and if you have to miss a rehearsal, you miss a rehearsal. And it's that understanding that we are humans outside of being performers, and building those kinds of connections. So patience with others, even when it may be disruptive in some way to your own trajectory of how you envision things going, right? And just there's that remembering there's a humanness there. So I think that's the number one quality. And then I think there's a number two. And a number two is just like to remember to have fun. And I don't want to say make fun of yourself, and I don't mean that in a condescending way, but remember to laugh. Remember that like we're in the business of entertainment. We're in the business of creating art. And we have to be able to laugh because things are always going to go wrong and things are always going to happen. And most of the time it's out of our control. That's the irony. It's like never things that we could say, oh, if hindsight's 2020. I could have done it that way. I mean, that happens. But ultimately, I mean, we just got to laugh and say, okay, this is the situation put in front of us. Let's figure out how to resolve it and just be gracious about it and kind about it and move on.
I really agree with that in many different ways. I think there's the collaboration aspect of music that really demands a lot of sensitivity to the needs and the lives of the people that you're working with, that you're performing with. And it makes a huge difference too in the final performance. You can really tell when musicians have taken the time to build strong connections with each other when they perform and make music. And you're exactly right about how it's at the end of the day you adapt to what happens and then you have fun and the rest follows. It falls into place. Yeah, to embrace the mishaps is a great thing to do when it is a stressful, at times a stressful industry like performance and entertainment. So you do have to make light of those things and enjoy it for yourself too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
As you're an incredibly talented artist, I mean, I've worked with you for a couple of years, and you have had the opportunity to travel across Canada to pursue your career. So, what can you tell viewers about the work-life balance of a choral conductor? I'd be really interested in learning a little bit about that.
Sometimes I wonder if there is work-life balance or if it's just all work. I think the beautiful thing about being a conductor is that it is absolutely work, but oftentimes it doesn't feel like work because you're working with people. And I'm fortunate to be working in the community sphere. And that's a really wonderful gift because people are giving their time to come to rehearsal. They're not necessarily paid to be there. They really genuinely want to be there. And so for me, the community sphere is like, that's my happy place. That's the place that I love making music with people that just really want to be there. It's not to say that can't happen in other other like the professional sphere, but definitely for the community. So work-life balance is challenging because I find, especially now that I'm my full-time day job is more on the administrative end as a managing director. I don't have the same time to give to the practice of conducting that I once did. So conducting has now become more of the life part of that work-life balance, and really has become it was always fun, but now it's also an outlet. I have a really good mentor who taught me about this idea of the third place, and that where somehow sometimes music can take us to that other place in life, that safe space, that space where you feel happy. And I really, really genuinely feel that conducting, especially with Myriad and during my time as associate conductor with Niagara in particular, that was my happy place. That is my happy place. That's those, I loved being there. And so for me, that is the life balance. It becomes tricky when you run into conflicts, personal conflicts, say with weddings or other events in life that you have to miss, because there is dedication and there is some set things that you just can't move. And sometimes those kinds of personal conflicts can be tricky. They can be tricky personally to negotiate. But I think when you have the right friends around you and you have the right people around you and the right colleagues around you, people are understanding. And there's always a way to negotiate every situation. And friends and family, if they really try to believe what you do, they will support you. They will support you in how that decision unfolds. So it's not always easy, but it's important. It's important to remember to take self-care time as well. That's not something I'm very good at, but I'd like to be better at it. But then also, if as a conductor, it's not my full-time gig, it's really difficult to make conducting a full-time gig in today's day and age. And so it means you're going to be balancing it with teaching or other kinds of things. And I'm very lucky to be balancing it working as a managing director of a choir, because it's adjacent. It's exactly adjacent, and I couldn't ask for a better partnership there. It's so conducting has become the life part of the work. And so for some musicians, sometimes that's being the reality, right? Is music becomes the life part, and it becomes the joy, and it becomes the fun part. So I don't know if that really answers your question. That's kind of a backwards way of answering your question, but
I think those are the best answers, though, because it is quite complex and every situation is different that we find ourselves in, especially as performers where, our schedules are not quite as steady as the average person might have, their day jobs. We have performances everywhere, anywhere, anytime we could be called type of thing. And you're right, it is about building that social network for yourself that is supportive and that truly understands and appreciates the work that you do. I think that's a great point about that balance, that abstract word balance.
Yeah.
But I think that's great. I know we have a few minutes left. I was wondering if you could tell us what projects you have coming up. How can we support you?
Yeah. So like I said, I'm very fortunate to be with 3 choirs in particular, but 2 which are very active at the moment. So Chorus Niagara has 2 concerts coming up. We're doing Beethoven's Missa Solemnis actually this weekend on March 4th. So very excited about that. And then on May, I should know this and I don't, but it's on the First Performing Arts Center website. In May, we have a concert on mental health called Sound Mind, which will be very, very interesting and really poignant for these times as well. So those are the 2 big things kind of coming up for Chorus Niagara. And then for Myriad, we're currently venturing into a video recording project of a work that we commissioned just pre-pandemic by our composer in residence, Katerina Gimmon. Of course, because of the pandemic, we never got to do it, so we're now doing it 3 years later. And it's called Unsung, If the Earth Could Sing. And it's for women's choir and cello and percussion. And it's all about giving voice to the Canadian landscapes through choral singing. and it's drawing attention to the environmental crisis. So through that, so it should be a really amazing. I'm biased, I think, but amazing video project when it's done. It's about 25 minutes in length. So that's our first project, and that should be released, I'm hoping, by early May. And then our spring concert is May 13th, so on Mother's Day weekend, and it's about giving voice and paying tribute to the very actually timely with this interview, tribute to the female composers, female poets, and female musicians who have paved the way for us today, and acknowledging the fact that we are so lucky as Canadians to have the freedom to sing what we want when we want, and what we want, and that there's so many other, specifically females around the world, who do not have that same privilege. And so it's helping them through choral music, giving voice to the that is a real thing, and that is a real struggle. So doing our little part to acknowledge that and draw awareness of those issues. So
Wow.
yeah, that's what's coming up.
Beautiful. That's amazing. You have so many fantastic performances coming up. So everybody, please stay tuned to that. And if you want to learn more about Elise, be sure to visit www.elisenaccarato.com. This has been Un Momento with Isabella Milano and Elise Naccarato. Elise, thanks for showing up today and for talking to me a little bit about your story, because it's fantastic.
Thank you, Isabella.
Bye.
Bye.